All right, guys. So I'm so excited today because I have Kelly here with me, and Kelly is an amazing Exit founder. Kelly, you and I met in New York City last year, and I loved your story. So why don't you tell us who you are, where you're at, and like a little bit more about yourself?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I love the work that you do because so much of it is things that I wish I had learned going through my process over 5 or 6 years ago. And I'm so grateful for women like yourself to make this platform for future exiters, right? Because there's just not enough resources out there and there's so many questions. So I am so delighted to have our conversation today. But yes, I am a native New Yorker, and almost close to 10 years ago, I started a corporate gifting business. Prior to that, I was always in tech startups here in New York, very heavily venture backed names like DoorDash and Indeed, and a company that was acquired by WeWork. So I had gotten that entrepreneurial like bug very early on in my career, and eventually started a very small business. I bootstrapped it, and in 2020, it was acquired by a Series C floral and gifting company called UrbanStems. And now,
Wow.
yeah, thank you. I love flowers, so it was like a perfect fit. And I really aligned with their mission, which is truly just to send happy and to, make everyone's gifting experience really special. So it was the perfect opportunity for me to let go of my first company. And since the exit, I've now made it my life goal to help other female founders launch, grow, and exit their companies. So, really happy to have today's conversation and partner with women like yourself that help us in this process of getting more women to the finish line.
Yes, and I love that you're saying that. And I mean, I have so many things I want to talk to you about. But I mean, to your point, women, this is the era of women in my like in my view that things are shifting. And I think that women are doing more business and taking more ownership over so many things. And I love to see that. And that's why, we love having women like you who have built something and sold something. And that's amazing. And then, yeah, there's a whole bunch of us women helping women do what they need to do in the industries that they're doing it. But I actually want to talk about like building a business is not for everybody, and you don't just wake up and say, "I'm going to start a business and do corporate gifting." How was the idea born? Like, what was the process like? What were you doing before you were doing
Yeah.
this?
So, like I said, I had always known that certain things were not my speed. Like, even as a
Right.
kid, knowing that school wasn't my speed, knowing that corporate wasn't my speed. That's why I naturally gravitated to startups, right? And growing up in New York City, it's such a joke, like an ongoing joke of every day is different, right? And it's like this life of adventure, but it kind of is. And I went to Catholic school my whole life, and there's a lot of rules, right? And immediately I
Yeah.
was like, my
Yeah.
life will not have rules. So entrepreneurship was like a natural thing for me. But at the time of the idea, it came from two things. One, at some point in my mom's career, she had owned a brick and mortar small business that was a flower shop here in Brooklyn for a very short period of time.
Wow.
It was kind of a side hustle with her and one of her friends. So I had remembered those years of her being in the flower shop and gift shop and that. So that was always in the back of my head. But when I was working at this startup, I would send gifts all the time to our prospects, our clients. And I realized whenever you did something personalized, they responded really well and it would build rapport with the client. So I started testing and trialing while I was in this startup of gifting.
Right.
And I just started like messing around with concepts and beta testing things. And I actually bought the domain and trademarks for my business
Wow.
over a year and a half before I came up with like the full concept. So I was kind of always building in the background of what was my 9 to 5.
Right. And so I don't know, I'm super visual. So I'm thinking corporate gifting. I'm thinking the beautiful boxes with like goodies. Like what kind of
Yeah.
goodies? Like how did like what?
Yeah, so we did gift bags and boxes.
Okay.
Like a big part of the bag was that they had these ribbons on them, and instead of doing all the tissue paper and crinkle paper and the stuff that gets thrown away, that we use that money towards a charity. So each ribbon represented a different cause. So
Nice.
because a big part of corporate gifting is presentation, right? And
Right.
the gift bags were nowhere near as designed as they could have been, right? Like I was doing everything on like, this is before AI, and even like Canva wasn't even nearly, we were using like clip art type stuff to make
Right.
these things.
Yeah, in the
And
old ages, in the cave ages of,
uh,
before AI.
exactly. So it was a very different thing, but we wanted to say that like the bags had a point, right? And where I was sourcing the gifts all had meaning too, because they were other women-owned businesses, small minority brands, and it was really important because it's a multi-billion dollar industry, right?
Right.
And there's so much space to play in. So we had things like chocolate bars and caramels and confectionery, all the way to like really beautiful leather bound, notebooks and pens
Mm,
and water bottles, right? Like all things that would create like a corporate gift, and different themes, right? Like business travel or cooking at home, right? So it was kind of like we couldn't keep up with the website and social media demand because that was
right.
not what I was doing. I was just creating proposals directly for businesses. And half the time they'd look at our website and be like, sorry, we're not interested. And then I would put together a proposal for their exact brand, and they'd be like, oh, this
Right.
is exactly what we wanted. But as
Right.
someone that was running the whole show by myself, I could never keep
Right.
up with what they
Yeah.
actually what it actually presented online as.
Yeah. And then the other thing that comes to mind is how important it is. The gifting, it's actually a super powerful act because, giving something as a thank you or even as a free something, gifting has a big power. We actually started doing gifts
Yeah,
because we think that it just leaves a really good imprint on the person receiving it, and it's like a giving, I just appreciate the relationship. I appreciate that we're very intentional with our gifts. They're not very extravagant or anything. I'm not the most, I probably don't have the creativity that you would have for creating them, but they're so important for business. Talk a
right.
little bit about the importance of a gift in business.
Yeah. So, I think about it in the sense of, you know, people aren't naturally thoughtful. Like when you meet someone that is naturally thoughtful, you're like, you remember them, right? And I use the example of one of my siblings. One of my brothers is naturally thoughtful in his follow up questions, right? Every time I see him or he interacts with another person, he'll remember something from the previous conversation
Mm,
and say, hey, how's that going? Or, how'd your baseball team do? Or how's your new home or your new job, right? And like he's so intentional with making people feel that way. And that's really great and a human communication skill, right? But like a lot of people have that hard place of translating that into something physical, right? Like a
right.
physical gift. So the easiest way to do that now is even cards, right? Getting blank cards every time you work with someone you enjoy or you're invited on a podcast or right? Like if you can't come up with a few sentences on your own, there's now AI and tools that could help you.
Right.
But like the idea is just getting into this habit of thoughtfulness, right? And all the tech platforms out there in corporate gifting now for people like yourself, there's so many. There's like Alice and Sendoso and Goody, and they help normal people, normal business professionals act on their thoughtfulness, right? So we've now made it really easy with technology to say like, hey, I want to give someone a token of $25 or $50 or even $100, and there's the technology that allows them to exchange it on the platform or find
Right.
something that they actually want. So we've, as humans, have kind of taken that in-person relationship that I use the example of my brother and
Right.
put that through technology to make corporate gifting easier for people and also for them to receive it, right? Like now there's an easy way to respond when receiving a gift too. So I
Yeah.
really, I really think that we've created a human connection through
Yeah.
prospects and client gifting with the use
Yeah.
of technology.
One of the coolest client gifts that I received we're blessed that our clients love us and they do send us gifts too. And so one year, one of my clients sent us Chinese cookies, you know, the
Yes.
little fortune cookies with our law firm name on it. And then inside was a fortune. It was the most beautiful, like, and then I ate them. And then I think they do lots of eating, like yeah, like personalized cookies, like
Yeah,
Christmas cookies with the firm name or some beautiful quote. Those are so. I mean, I felt the most special when I received. I'm like, wow, it's like
exactly.
somebody's using my name and they personalize it to your company name. It's really beautiful. So Kelly, okay, so how long were you operating this company before the thought of even like, did they come to you? Or did you go to them? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. While I was in the startup, it was called Managed by Q. I was a power user of UrbanStems. So UrbanStems ended up being the acquirer of my business. I was a power user to the point where they saw my Managed by Q email and they said, "Hey, Kelly, you send more bouquets than anyone, and we see that you're sending it to offices. I'm one of the 5 founders. I would love to go out to coffee with you and learn how you're using our platform." Now, at that time, UrbanStems could get a bouquet anywhere in Manhattan in under 2 hours. And it was beautifully designed and a recipe. And that's still the existing business model today. But in 2014, 2015, this was mind blowing, right? Like
Right.
the traditional way of ordering flowers has always been picking up the phone, calling your local delivery, hoping that they could send something out right away. That was never the case, right? Like, so this was groundbreaking. I had coffee with him. I didn't even have a business idea. This is 3 years of me just using his product. And we kept in touch, honestly, mostly through social media and Twitter and just, that. And 3 years later, I was like, hey, I'm thinking of a corporate gifting business. Again, had coffee with him. It was right before the pandemic. He was like, I am personally leaving the business, but I think you should meet our new chief revenue officer. I briefly met, and this is years later, right? Like he left the
Right.
business and then I started my business.
Right.
And it was just truly just keeping in touch with people through social media. We didn't
Right.
have the strongest connection. It wasn't anything. It was more just like, look at us, right? Like I met you at an
Being
event
in the
and you're,
loop.
yeah. And
Yeah,
it's like
staying in the loop. Yeah.
constantly building real life relationships. And this is what I tell founders all the time is like, it didn't happen from magic. It happened from, being like, hey, how's it going? And building a relationship. So anyway, long story short, 3 years later, in my company and building, and we reconnected, and he had said, like, I think you should, meet our chief revenue officer, et cetera. Had one conversation, and then the pandemic hit. So, and the conversation was like more about partnership and opportunities. And obviously, there was like a growing need for corporate gifting. They didn't have a set department, they didn't have that
Right.
like business line. So, yeah, so it was not like I was willing to sell. If you told me that, at the end of my life, I was still creating gifting or being in the floral industry, I would have said, like, that's a complete dream of mine. Like, I had
Right.
no intentions of selling at the time that it happened.
It kind of happened.
Yeah. It
Wow.
happened
Wow.
because of the pandemic, right? Corporate gifting continued to grow.
Right.
All events and
Right.
conferences were
Yeah.
shut down. And I had one conversation with them and it kind of went cold, but I just didn't think anything of it. And I just kept sending updates. Like every 4 weeks, I would just send an update like, hey, these are some new customers we acquired. This is our new spring line. This is what we're doing. And then 6 months later, in July, which was the beginning of their fiscal year, I had received an email that sounded very promising about, we're
Wow.
interested in your business and you and so on. And then from July, it took a few months to close and come over, but I was part of the deal. A lot of the IP lived up here, which is what we
Right.
see founders on not to do,
Yes.
is like make
Right.
sure that you're not the IP. But yeah, it was truly a dream come true. An amazing organization, amazing opportunity for me, and just grateful for the experience, really.
Amazing. Amazing. Hey guys, I want to take a minute here and talk to you about for a second about the company X-Ray. Bottom line, if you want to sell your business in the next few years, there are two things that you're going to need to know. You're going to need to know the financials, and you're also going to need to know the legal side. Why? When you go to sell a company, there will be a lawyer on the other side, and there will be financial people on the other side. And usually, once you're on the table, the financial stuff has been figured out. They give you a purchase price. They just need to verify. But the lawyers for the buyers are going to scrutinize your company in a process called due diligence. And we've seen so many people not be ready for the due diligence and turn these M&A situations into horrible stress and emotional roller coaster stories. And for that, we have created the solution, which is called the Company X-Ray. Check it out at thecompanyxray.com. We basically do a legal audit. It's just one click for us. That's all it takes. You give us your data, we analyze it, and then we give you a report and we tell you how exit ready your company is from a legal perspective. Because if you're not, not only is your M&A going to turn into a roller coaster, but your purchase price might be cut and your purchase sale agreement might look really, really, really against you because the buyer found things and liabilities they don't like. So be ahead of the game. Check out thecompanyxray.com and reach out. We'll be happy to help you. So, I mean, it kind of popped up. The conversation started. What from the first time that you guys maybe were talking about, oh, maybe getting that acquired to the actual acquisition, like, was it a long time or was it relatively quick?
No, I would say it's relatively quick in terms of, now being on the other end and having managed exits and supporting
Yeah,
women in their exits. Like mine was very quick and very clean. I had
good.
owned 100% of the business, so there was no one to pay out. The business was profitable in the sense that, I wasn't really paying myself and the business had paid its initial investment, and there was no like debt on the business, no SBA loans or anything. And then the other thing that I felt like was really easy in the process was they couldn't buy my business without buying me, right? Like, so like it
Right.
was an employment agreement of
Okay.
an
It's like a
aqua.
post-acquisition, like a transition period. And okay.
Exactly. So it
Awesome.
was an aqua hire opportunity, and I would be the director of B2B corporate gifting and build out a team and the business line. And, so for me, it was like, this is great. I get to keep my company under more resources and now get a executive level salary and equity and opportunity.
Amazing. So, at Exited, at our podcast, we talk to so many founders, right? And some had great experiences, others had not so great, others were about to sue, between the buyer and the seller. We have so many people. And then we have some that were ready and some that were not ready in the sense of the process of what it takes, right? The due diligence, the documents, and what would you say? Were you ready? Were you? It sounds like you had a pretty smooth experience with your exit.
Definitely with the paperwork and upfront like stuff, I had a smooth experience. I think where there was any form of friction was obviously incorporating a brand new person into the fold and a brand new
Right.
like revenue line and getting everyone on board.
Integration.
Yeah, like I think that's a really hard thing, especially when it's a much bigger company of 100 people versus one. And like
Right.
now competing priorities of like building out for consumer when that's your core customer, core product. But now I need the support for a new business line, right? So I think that's where the friction and, things kind of shifted because the business models are entirely different. How you
Right.
serve a corporate customer is so different than how you help, Mary Jones up the road send flowers to her mom, right? Like it's a very different experience, and corporate expects and demands excellence, right? And I
Right.
think that is something that I, led, is that like my customers buy from me because they expect excellence, and that's the
Right.
level of service that we're, willing to give. So, I think those were the growing points or pain points in that process. But otherwise, like the upfront due diligence and stuff, we're talking simple math, like back
Right.
to the
Right.
napkin math of like, hey, this isn't going to be a huge outcome. This is going to be more of an opportunity. And, I was smart in what I negotiated and what I wanted and what I needed.
Good.
Um, and, I'm sure if I had you or Carrie or any of my girls in my court then, they would have been like X for 10 times more than that. But no, I did good. I did. I made the one decision that I share on this podcast, for anyone listening. I knew that if I were to be paid in cash up front, it would have been pennies on the dollars of what the business
Right.
would be worth. So I
Okay.
took my full exit in equity because,
Okay. Wow. Okay.
yeah,
But that's
uh,
probably paying off. I mean, it's paying off
um,
or paid off, that those are big
yeah.
ones too. Yeah.
So the reason why I did this, and I share this for anyone listening who is like, I don't know what to do, is I came into the business when it was a Series B company. I had known that we would eventually be a Series C company and continue to raise. So I had made that decision early on that that was going to be what was the
Yeah.
value of the business. And then when I left, I just everything rolled over into their company, and that's why we're always going to root for them, and why
Yes.
I still want all the success for them, because my exit check will happen when they exit now.
Right.
So
Right.
I knew that for them, right, is like, I believe in your product and your service so much that I'm willing
Right.
to put, bet the
Yes.
house on it.
I
So
love it.
that's something that's unique in my exit that I did do, but I did know that what I could have got for the business at that time versus what it will be worth in the future is a very big,
Superior.
big life
Definitely.
changing amount.
Yeah. And I mean, you just touched on 2 points that are crucial for us, when we are working with our clients that are exiting. And the first one is when you're exiting, there's so many topics, so many areas, right? One of them being most likely, and not in every case, but most likely, if you're operating this company, you're gonna have to continue to operate it post acquisition.
Yep.
And so exiting is not just, oh, the money I'm getting, the equity I'm getting, the due diligence, the lawyers, the CPS, the CFOs, and all these things. But it's also like my role is going to change. And I'm going to be from being my own boss to now being part of a
Ooh.
corporate hierarchy. There's a reason why I am an entrepreneur. And the reason is I want to be in my own universe and be the leader versus now I'm going to be part of a corporate hierarchy. And I find that is one of the biggest shocks. And that's not uncommon. The same thing that happened too is like, oh, now I have to build a team, the corporate, their culture, their structure. And that's so big. And it's important to navigate it with, I guess, grace and being prepared. And the other one is exactly also what you touched upon is like, what are they giving me? Are they giving me money? Are they giving me equity? Like equity in what? Like that's so
Right.
big, and just having the confidence to understand because you need to have some understanding of how that works. Like, when do you get your money and how much? And what's your risk level and your appetite? And the key that you said is, I believe in this company. So knowing your buyer, like some people, and negotiating for yourself, right? Because so many people, especially the founder, oh, I just, I'm grateful that somebody wants to buy me. But the reality is the buyer is usually, once they're talking to you, they're pretty locked in. So
Right.
it is a tense, back and forth. But I think founders have more power than they think they have in the negotiation. Um, And they, we're strong on like push for your price, push for what you deserve and what you should get in this exit, because you built this business unit that now will be part of a larger, venture capital or portfolio company or something like that. That's huge. I love it. That's so valuable. I mean, just for everybody listening, that what you just said is immense. There's so much to learn from that.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of our decision making as founders and in the exit process, a lot of it comes from personal factors, right?
Right.
So I look back on that experience in 2020, right? Like the world was on fire and we were seeing that this category was growing at rapid speed. Corporate gifting was the number one category
Right.
for, e-commerce. Like it was just everywhere you went, people were sending things. And I just felt like if I held on to it, and this is the truth, if I held on to that business, it'd be worth almost nothing today with the technology that we have.
Right.
Unless I
Mm.
built alongside one of the technology
Right.
platforms, the technology platforms have done such a significant job that it was the perfect partner at the perfect time. And even though, like any relationship, there was friction points, I know that that experience has shaped the rest of my career, has given me more opportunities, and was the right opportunity at the time. The other thing, besides the timing, is I was pretty risk adverse. Like I wasn't
Mm.
scared to make that decision because honestly, if I just closed the business that day, the day it exited and said I don't want to do this anymore, I'd already made back my money. I was deemed successful by myself by just bootstrapping a business that
Mm.
became profitable. I was like, oh, this is a few $100,000 that I did from my parents' basement. Wow, like that's impressive, right? One
That's
person company.
huge.
So
Yes.
like for me, there was no external factors of partners or children or
Right.
anything. I would, in my eyes, I had already done it. I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. I created a little gig for myself, right?
Love it.
But now going back, like if I was in a different position and I had external partner, like external pressure from a partner or family or something, I understand that founder can't just sell and bet the house on an equity play that's not that is still in
Exactly.
play, right? Like it's 6 years later and that check is not here yet. I understand why external pressures or personal reasons change, right?
Right.
A lot of the women we work with in the exit, planning, it's not just, you know, family planning or managing a household. It's now aging parents, or it's now, like their partner has lost a job, right? There's so many external factors of why selling. And the reason why I was able to do it on my terms is I had none of that pressure and I wasn't desperate. If they walked away from the deal, I was like, okay, no problem. Like I
Right.
built it for me anyway. So it really
Right.
was a good partner and good timing. And honestly, I mean this, even if it's not the outcome that I want in the future, what being an exited founder and going through that experience and now doing this, you know, it it's I've learned so much through the last 5 or 6 years that it
Amazing.
it's paid off in
Yes. I
learning
mean,
experience. Yeah, all of it.
in the wealth of information. So tell us more about what you're doing now
Yeah.
and how you're helping women scale and exit their companies.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a small advisory. It's just me. It's called Launch, Grow, Exit, and it really has three pillars. The first is content. So I create content on platforms to kind of help educate women on how to set up their business that can be acquired in the future, right? And not doing things like leaving the IP up here
Right.
and getting yourself out of the business early. Growing things like fundraising and different means of opportunities for women bootstrapping, whether it's grants. So I help with those opportunities for women who are growing a business, and then exiting. So I do some exit advisory and actually brokering. So the name of my company is just Launch, Grow, Exit, and I work with female founders to do that. In the last few years, I've worked with over 75 founders,
Wow.
and yeah, and I keep my rates extremely low, so that I could have a bigger impact and dip my toes into brands and exciting problems that I want to solve. So it's kind of like having an extra co-founder in your pocket, of someone who's
Exactly.
done it.
Exactly. And that's so, so important. And Kelly, if somebody wants to find you, what's the best way to connect?
Yeah, so I'm Kellyanne Parker on LinkedIn and Launch Grow Exit on Instagram and TikTok.
Awesome. Well, Kelly, I have absolutely loved. I wish we had more time to talk more. You and I were connecting before we started recording, and you keep saying the word New York City, and I'm like, New York City's calling me, so I'm gonna have to come and see you.
Oh my
But
gosh,
no,
please.
yes, especially since everybody tells me the weather is back to being beautiful in New York, and so maybe I'll come. But thank you for having us. Congratulations on everything you've done, and I know you are doing amazing work for the women. I've seen you. I know we've seen you do it, and it's amazing. And yeah, guys, follow Kelly. We get your newsletters. We love your newsletters. We read them, and want to be informed of what you're doing. So yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. And again, thank you for being such an amazing resource to women exiters. Together, we're going to change the outcomes for so many more women.
Let's do it. Let's make them a lot of money.
Exactly. All right.
Thanks,
I look
Kelly.
forward to having you in New York. Bye,
Sounds
Gabrielle.
good. Bye bye.